This is the instructor segment for the leg and lower bar exercises in standing. We don't really have the bars here set up, but I will go through the exercises with you one by one. In the homes, there will be the top bar and the bottom bar, and those will be the exercises we'll be talking about. The first exercise that you have is the marching, where you're lifting your hip to touch the top of the bar. Main compensations I see are people who lean back excessively to try to lift their hip up, and also those who kick the bottom of the bar with a very straight leg. You want to make sure that you stand them close to the bar so that they have to lift their hip up to use their toes to touch the top of the bar. Not slamming down on the bar, like they do. So just touching and coming down. Next exercise is the hamstring curl, which is this exercise, lifting up. Looks very simple, but most of the seniors will have their knees coming forward this way to use their hips to lift their knee up. So make sure you try to keep their knees in close together and make sure there's no gap. So just like this, instead of this. If they do it a bit, that's fine. As long as they're doing the exercises, better than nothing. Next thing is the heel raises. From the side view, it should look like this. Most of the seniors have difficulty lifting their toes up. So if they lift just a bit, that will be fine also. The main compensations I see is the sticking back of the buttocks as they're trying to lift, or excessively leaning back. So make sure you keep your body straight and lift the heel up. Next exercise is the heel raise. Very simple exercise where you're just lifting the heel up. Main things I see is people who hold on to the bar tend to pull in towards the wall as they're doing it. So make sure you feel like your head's going to hit the roof and feel like they're going straight up and coming down, straight up and coming down. Next exercise is the side step. They will hold on to the bar, stay close. Same as the marching, they will tend to try to use their leg to kick the lower side of the bar. So just make sure they lift over and go on top of the bar and touch it with the tip of their toes. Just like that. Another compensation usually would be side leaning. So if they will lean off to the side just a bit as they're doing it. So make sure that, same thing with all the other exercises, make sure their body is straight, no excessive movement from the body as they're doing it. Next exercise that we're going to do is the hip circles. Because the toes are pretty close to the ground, there will be a tendency for them to lean just a bit, and that will be fine, so that their feet can actually clear the floor. When they're doing the exercise, make sure their toes are up and not down. If they're down, they'll probably drag along the floor. Okay, just like this. Now, another thing with this exercise is you're actually working both legs. When you're actually turning the left and standing on the right by itself, that right actually feels really sore. So they might tell you that, and that's normal. When they're standing on the right side, doing the circles with the left, tell them to keep their knees soft. Don't lock the knee out, and because that puts a lot of excessive stress on the knee joint. Okay, so knee soft on the right, and do small circles. Okay, we're going to do the stretch first, and then after that we'll get to the squat, which is kind of the most difficult part of the exercise to teach. Now, out of all the segments, this is the only stretch they do, and they'll do it right at the end. They will put the foot up on the bar. Just make sure not the mid of the foot gets on the bar. You want the tip of the foot. From there, you want to make sure that their knees are straight. A lot of them will bend and try to just press into the bar. Make sure their knees are straight. And the most important thing is make sure the heel comes down towards the floor. When you do that, you will feel the stretch in the calf. Not a lot of compensations there. Just look out to make sure that they're not too close to the bar, or else they won't be able to straighten out their knees. And to make sure that they're actually straightening out the knees and pushing the heel down into the floor. Now we're going to talk about the most difficult exercise, the squat, and we're going to go through it next. I get a lot of questions about the squat. It's one of the most difficult exercises to teach and the most difficult exercise to get correct. So today we're going to go through all the different things that I see that people do wrong, and I'll teach you how to correct them. Now, when you're doing a squat, the main thing that usually happens that I see is that somebody has their knees slightly past their toes. When they do that, you'll see their heel coming off. So they usually do a squat just like this. And most of them will end up complaining of knee pain when they're doing it. Now, whenever you do a squat, you want to make sure that the knees do not go past the toes. And in order to teach that, usually I will put a chair behind the senior as they're holding onto the bar so that they can feel like they're sitting instead of squatting. So if I'm holding onto the bar, I want to feel like I'm sitting back into the chair instead of trying to bend my knee as much as I can. So tell them to sit into the chair without touching, come back up, and sit down, and come back up. Now, let's say they're doing that correctly and they still tell you, you know what, I still have knee pain. Now, there are certain other things that you can look at if you want to be a bit more particular. If you look from the front shot, when somebody is squatting, if you look at their feet, if they are very much turned out, as they squat, they will tend to knock their knees in together. When they do that, it will put excessive pressure on the kneecap. Now, what you can do is you can tell them to maybe keep their knees a bit straighter, and also as they come down into the squat, to not feel like their knees are coming in. Feel that they're straight and right over their second toe as they're coming down. Now, for most seniors, they probably you don't have to be so particular, but if they do all three things correctly, meaning when they come down to the squat, the knees are not past the toes, they come down and the knees are not knocked, the foot's not turned out, then they probably have a lot of wear in the knee. If that happens, make sure that when they do the squat, they do not go very deep. They can just do a very light squat just about there. Once the knee bends, the quads, hamstrings all fire, so they don't have to go very deep. And that's the end of the instructor section for the leg and low bar.